example, as leaders, we often feel that we have to be all things to all people. And we hold up this image of ourselves. And in a lot of ways, we have this facade that we show to the world that is not really what we're feeling inside. And that mask that we wear, when we get used to wearing that mask day in and day out, it eats away at us. We can't sleep. We forget who we really are. And we get so attached to that image that we'll do anything to keep that image alive. We'll lie, we'll do unethical things even, just to make sure that everyone knows that we're great, we're wonderful, and we're on top of it. Now, if this sounds familiar, I invite you to acknowledge that we all have our egos. This is what it is to be human. We are on the journey of identifying who we are beyond our egos to our infinite selves. That's why we're all here. And one of the big ways that I invite us in to identify ego and to then have compassion for our ego is how we get to an expanded sense of self. Now, the four main ways that we can identify when we're in our ego, or when our ego is in the driver's seat as opposed to being a passenger, or worse, a backseat driver, but better than driving. One is we notice when we compare. We compare ourselves to others. We compare ourselves to how much money someone else is making, how big of a house they have, how great their kids are doing, etc. We compare. When we get into comparison, this is immediately a way to know, oh, there's my ego. Another way is criticism. So criticism of self or others. Criticism that looks like, oh, I can't believe that that's what you call a good work product. That's not even, that's half-assed, or that's this, that, and the other. And criticizing what someone has done, what someone is wearing, or whatever way that you might find yourself criticizing. Or, like I said, criticizing yourself for not being good enough, for, oh, you could have done better, oh, you should have gotten that award, or you should have been there. So that's another way to notice that you're an ego. The third way is judgment. So judgment is looking at how you are judging a situation and not seeing things as they are. For example, you go to a meeting and you feel like everyone's ignoring you. And you feel like, oh gosh, I'm always ignored. Nobody ever listens to me. No one ever hears what I have to say. Now, the question is that really so? Could it have been that it was a meeting where someone else was giving a really important presentation and you simply weren't able to chime in because it wasn't your area of expertise? Or could it be that it's an indication of an area that you want to focus on? For example, being more assertive. But seeing things as they really are gets us out of ego and out of that limited sense of self. And the fourth way we can identify ego is fixing. When we're constantly in this mode of fixing, or another way to put it is being in perfectionism, constantly picking at ourselves, our appearance, or whatever it is we pick at. Some of us literally pick at our scabs. Gross, I know. Or it's picking at others, picking at our partners, picking at all the ways that they're imperfect, or picking at our kids, wanting them to be absolutely perfect in everything they do, or controlling them, or picking at our team or our teammates or our colleagues' work or our employees' work, or micromanaging. This is an indicator that we're driving from a place of ego. So comparing, criticizing, fixing, or being perfectionist, or judging, these are all four ways that we can identify ego. And it's important to identify ego, not to silence ego and not to judge or criticize our own ego, but to start to integrate the parts of ourselves that may need some compassion. And what I mean by that, let's say, for example, you feel like no one listens to you, no one hears you, in that example of criticizing. It may be that there was a time growing up where you literally couldn't speak out. Nobody was hearing you because, for whatever reason, there was too much going on in the drama of your family and people really weren't hearing you. And so there's this subconscious belief that you can't get across to people and people don't listen to you, or that maybe you shared something once and you felt or were told that that's silly or that's stupid. And so you go through life not speaking up. You go through life thinking that, oh, no one cares what I have to say. And so we can identify ego when we get into that voice, that track, if you will, like a track on a CD or on a cassette tape that's repetitive and that says the same thing. We can identify that voice and we can feel it in our body. This is the big step. Where in the body do you feel it? When we can notice where we feel it and what it usually says, then we can start to understand this part and go deeper. Go deeper into the practice of self-inquiry and compassionate self-inquiry, meaning we start to ask ourselves, gosh, where is this part of my body? Is it in my chest? Is it in my throat? Can I breathe into it? What does this part need from me? If it were like a person or a young child even, maybe it literally was a younger version of ourselves stuck in this dimension of time. And this is where our ego comes from. Our ego comes from our subconscious patterning, which happens the first 7 years of our lives. And so again, the ego is not bad. The ego helps us to live life and to be in this world. But we need to learn to distinguish when we're driving from ego and when we're driving from self with a capital S, or being. How are we being in being? And that is the core of so much of my work. It was the focus of my retreat that I led in February on compassionate self-inquiry on a leadership retreat. And it's one that I'm leading again along with an amazing colleague, Kat Kapowski, coming up this November. And it's also a big part of the pieces that I bring to the Resilience book, co-authored with Samantha Anderson. This way of looking at ourselves, this way of understanding who we are and making decisions from an expanded sense of self, this is what helps us be leaders of a new paradigm. This is what helps us co-create a world where we are living a dream, where we are not reacting to life and we are not beholden to feeling stuck and feeling in a negative space, but we are creating a dream that enables all of us to thrive, where there's harmony, where there's respect, where there's truth, and where we live with and aligned with our values. So keep in touch if you're interested to learn more. This came as a result of the workshop I led yesterday on the crown chakra, which is very much about ego and our sense of self. If you want to continue, you can join me every month. I'll be teaching a chakra yoga focused on the chakras and sharing a bit of what I'm bringing to the Rise Beyond Resilience to Root Resilience book. And you can also join my Mindful Business Leader Mastermind, which is a free 3-set meditation, 10 minutes each, to help you get into why you lead and what your metrics of success are, so that you can start to go beyond your individual sense of self to that infinite self. And I want to end with a quote here. This is from the Gitanjali, which is written by Rabindranath Tagore, who is a Bengali. I'm also a Bengali, and so I love reading works from him, which is very nice. And he says here, "He whom I enclose with my name is weeping in this dungeon. I am ever busy building this wall all around. And as this wall goes up into the sky, day by day, I lose sight of my true being in its dark shadow. I take pride in this great wall, and I plaster it with dust and sand, lest a least hole be left in this name. And for all the care I take, I lose sight of my true being." So noticing what walls we put up around us, and remembering that we are the observer, we are not the actors on the screen. We are the ones watching the play We are not the ones in the play. We are the ones wearing the virtual reality goggles. We are not lost in what we're seeing in those goggles. And so stepping away from your sense of self based purely on what you think and your image of who you are, and I guarantee you, you will find everlasting happiness. Nothing will ever shake you. Yes, you'll still have experiences, both good and bad, but your expanded sense of self will show you the big picture in a way that you know viscerally and in every cell of your body that you can overcome anything, and that your default emotion can be compassion. And it takes time, it takes practice. It's certainly so much of what I've learned myself, and maybe I learned it the hard way so that I could be here to share this in what I teach. But if this resonates with you, please let me know. Please reach out. I would love to have you join one of my upcoming workshops. So again, check those out, and I hope to see you soon. Happy Mindful Monday.